So you have in Argentina, you have capital controls, and just every decade like a hyperinflationary dumpster fire happening like on a regular. It's a chronic disease at this point, right? And the government is defaulting their debts, and they need to rebalance every 7 years, every 8 years, with every mandate almost. And I think as a result of that, the citizens have been more street smart, and they don't believe what the government tells them, even though still there's considerable amount of people who do. And but the thing that is really cool to observe is just how far the human imagination can actually go in order to escape all these capital controls, and just like the incredibly bad precedent that you have just by being born in a place like Argentina and trying to trying to reach for a middle class life. When you live in countries like Argentina or Venezuela that sees extreme hyperinflation, you are being taught not to save. You're being told to you better use all the money that you have the day you get paid to get the groceries and get everything that you need, right? Like there are people, you come back the day after buying milk, and milk might be 25% more expensive. So the essence of saving for long term for future prospect is just out the window. And the fact that with Bitcoin you can kind of instill that way of thinking, apart from opening to the world and accepting doing commerce, but also the savings part of it is so extremely sustainable and healthy that it's just a revolution in how people from Latin America, Africa, and Asia can actually just plug into a protocol and change their life. In Argentina specifically, the capital controls are ridiculous, right? You are allowed to exchange Argentinian peso to US dollar every month. I think the limit is $200 now. US dollar has always been highly attractive asset just to hold. And hyperinflation is not a new phenomenon in Argentina. The country has every decade since the 40s have experienced this. So this is ingrained in people's just brains at this point. And when things get really bad, just you see capital flights even outside of Argentina just disappear. And these capital controls that the government puts as a response is extremely non-productive. So people, they are again, with the human imagination of how far it can go in order to circumvent these things, they have set up something called caves. In Spanish, called cuevas, which is underground exchange houses where you can go with how many pesos that you want and exchange it to actual physical US dollars. But the last 4 or 5 years, it was explosion in stablecoin adoption by these underground exchange houses, these so-called cuevas. And they offer tether as and it's unlimited, right? So if you have you go get your official $200 cash through the public means, but then if you want to have 600 every month additional that you want to have in US dollars, you go to tether. So it has been extremely interesting to see the adoption and the use cases for tether in places like Argentina. It's extremely positive. I'm super happy to see that. And because ultimately what it does to people is that they preserve the value of their time and labor. And that is the most crucial thing that you have to have for people in the society. Even though Canada hasn't really acted the way Argentina has acted, you now start to see some of those indicators that tells you, okay, we are definitely heading down this path. And that was not the case before. But that was just because you thought you were different from Argentina or maybe the other countries in the third world. But it's the same. The fiat experiment is the same. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from countries like Argentina, Venezuela. A lot of people look at that and say, oh, these are third world countries. We have nothing in common with them. But honestly, you should look at Venezuela and Argentina as these people who come from the future to tell you, what you can expect and can actually predict how things are going to end. I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned from countries like El Salvador and other Latin American, African countries who are going through a lot of the things that Canada and other countries in the West might have to face real soon.